are possible to develop, and these are developed specially for the solar cell applications. So you can see here, earlier monocrystalline ingot what I showed were cylindrical in nature, right? But here you can see it's a rectangular block, right? So the point is, this material is absolutely defective. Okay, it is, I mean, it is better than metallurgical grade, but compared with your electronic grade, this is quite defective. And what happens is, when you cut this just a second, yeah, so when you cut this in the thinnest slide possible, you are not going to get a clean wafer, but here you can see the patches, and all these patches, small, big, of different size. And also, by the way, one quick question over here. You see the patches, okay? And you see that one is there are different shades of gray. Can you tell me why? You got my question? So this is the material which we have made, the ingot, then we are chopping it, then we are making the wafers. But now obviously it is not cylindrical shape, it is a rectangular shape. So that's why we get this squarish or rectangular shape, whatever you call it as, right? So this is the surface of whatever the wafer we have obtained. So why I get a light gray here, dark gray here, maybe absolute white here and absolute black here? Why?
So maybe because of the different crystal arrangements.
Yes, the answer is the orientation, because these I have already defined that these are the grains, right? So these grains have unique, I mean, one grain will have a unique arrangement. However, that arrangement will be different from the nearby any grain you trade. So that's why, as the orientation is different, the light reflected from that particular grain would be in different angle, and that's why you get different colors over here. So this grain have the grain boundaries, obviously, and these grain boundaries are the hurdles. Okay, so it is something like toll booth. So whenever you are on a highway, you are cruising at 100 kilometers per hour, but what happens whenever there is a toll, you have to stop. Okay, and at that time the speed is reduced to zero, and you again increase once you leave the booth. So this is you can think of electrons as the vehicles which are crossing the booth, and booth is the grain boundary. So obviously there is a loss occurring, and in solar cell the loss is in the efficiency. So these polycrystalline materials would be 1 to 2% lower in the efficiency. However, what we are gaining is the lower capital cost of the production in this case. So that's why this compromise is made. And but overall, ultimately, what you have to look for is the levelized cost of electricity, or the modular cost, or the electricity cost per what you say, per watt. Okay, that is what we can compare when we are talking of when we are comparing of the two different technologies. Anyway, so these ingots can be obtained by something called as block casting method. Not casting, it's a casting method. So you take this polycrystalline silicon, which we have obtained in the second step, then you melt it. Now when it melts, and when you try to cool them, again directional solidification happens. It slowly starts cooling from the outer area to the inner, and one way to another, because of the heat exchanger that we are applying. And what happens is, due to this directional solidification and local cooling, the silicon grains appear. It may be from in few millimeter to some centimeter size, and that is how we get a multicrystalline ingot. Now, obviously, it doesn't matter whether it is a multicrystalline or monocrystalline. It's a big block weighing of hundreds of kg, and that is what we don't want. Uh, just to give the idea, I think already we have I have told you that a typical solar cell will be of about 150 micrometer thick, right? So these blocks are too thick for that. So obviously we have to wafer, we have to dice it into the wafer, so that we can find out, we can get the thin wafers. So now there are various methods. The most common methods are inner diameter sewing and the wire sewing. I will show you one by one. Inner diameter sewing, uses a metal blade. I think you have seen how the wood is chopped. So something very literally, very similar way this is done. However, wood chopping is done externally, and here you can see it is done internally, because this is the edge which is cutting. So this normally is diamond particles which are coated on the inner side of this circle, and then this ingot goes through. So cutting speed, obviously it has to be very slow. Why? Because we are cutting very thin wafers over here, so 0.05 centimeter per second or something. But then you can understand when we are cutting the ingot, there is some thickness to this blade, okay, and depending upon, we can go too fine, but then again, as we go too thin, the strength of that blade would decrease, right? So there is a limitation, there is a physical limitation for that. And what happens due to this some thickness, inherent thickness that we have, this cutting would result into some material loss. Okay, I think you have done have you operated lathe, or have you ever used hacksaw blade for cutting some metal?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
the first year, right? What happens when you cut with hacksaw or lathe? What happens?
So some material is wasted when we are cutting.
Then
like-
material is wasted, right? Okay, so same thing happens over here, and that kerf loss, that we call it as kerf loss, it would be about 30 to 40%. It means what? The 1/3 of the ingot is now wasted in making the wafers, right? So that's a huge loss. Of course, that material will be reused, but the point is that we have to again put it in the process, and whatever is the energy input or the time and the money, that is now obviously a wastage. So people are coming up with some different techniques. Other one is the wire sewing. So this blade would have a larger thickness, right? So instead of that, if we can use the wire, so tension wired is used for this. By the way, you have seen granites, right? Marbles, which is used for floors in your house, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So do you know how? Because see, it's a large rock, and that large rock is eventually cut into 30-inch or 40-inch kind of what you call it as marble, right? Okay. Do you know what is the material which is used to cut those big rocks? These rocks can be
Diamond.
of a typical 10 by 10 by 10 size. Okay. Yeah.
Diamond.
Diamond cutting, no. Yeah, I'm talking of big blocks, okay, big stones to cut. Yeah, any other guess?
The pressurized water jets.
Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely right. Pressurized water jet. Water is free, so you have to just compress it. You have to pressurize it. That's all. So pressurized water can cut literally into the rocks. Okay. So even not in this case, but in certain cases, you can. There is something called a sand blaster. Okay, a very fine particle of the sand. If you put it on some surface, they will blast it. They will smoothen it. Okay, so sand blasting is also done to smoothen the surface. So in a way, it is cutting. Okay, so point is here wires can be used. So the throughput, that output will be higher. Wires are thinner, so the kerf losses are going to go less. But still, there is some thickness over here. So that's why about 20 to 30% losses are there. And there is another advantage. That the smoothness, rather I should talk about the roughness of the surface. Okay, we see that these polished surfaces are too smooth. Okay, but that is for our eyes. But when you are talking of atomic level over here, definitely these are quite rough. Okay, so this roughness is measured by certain microscopic techniques, and this particular method is going to lower that damage to the surface of the wafer. So this method is common for the PV industry. So this is how it is done. So you can have a block. So there are some pictures you can check. So there is a big block, and then you are slicing it further. This would be roughly 4 by 4 centimeter or 6 by 6 centimeter rectangular. You can see this gray scale. So this is all indicating that it is a polycrystalline material. Now, why are we using water here? This is a blade, by the way. This is cut by blade. Okay, then later it will be go to this one. Why we are using water here?
Reduces friction, sir.
Water reduces friction.
For cooling, sir.
Cool down.
Kuch bhi. Yeah, cooling down. Yes. So the purpose is to cool down, and it is doing one more thing. It's a side effect, advantage. I mean, what it is doing?
Lubricant.
It's just part.
How water is lubricant? Yes.
So it's a small particle get mixed with kind of water and settle down.
The water carries away the small particles, that is the curve loss, along with it. Okay, so that is how you should be putting it. Anyway, so you guessed it correctly. So ultimately, let us talk about the wafers, what we have produced now. There are certain standard specifications. So you can see here, these are ingots of various sizes, and you get these wafers. And you can see these wafers, there is a reflection. So it is the polish. What I'm talking about is like a mirror polish. Okay, you can see your face, but obviously it is brown in color. That's why obviously it will not work as a mirror, but roughly you get the idea. So these wafers, especially the monocrystalline wafers, are now are in a circular shape. So there are certain standard specifications. So first thing is the diameter. So if point is, if you are to purchase a wafer from a vendor, what are you going to specify? Okay. So this could be the size, that is the first part. 2 inch, 4 inch, 12 inch, that is the largest wafer now it is available. Of course, if you can translate it to but it depends on how you use it. Next thing is the thickness. Okay, so you can see 2 inch wafers are roughly 275 micrometer. This unit is micrometer. Okay, so obviously, okay, I should not say obviously. You can see here a 2 inch wafer, the thickness is 275 plus minus 25. So that because there could be error. Okay, so 250 to 300 micrometer would be the thickness. But you see, when I'm going for 12 inch, the thickness is 775. Okay, again there will be some plus minus. Why I cannot achieve a thickness of 275 even for a 12 inch wafer? Where is the problem?
Sir, because its diameter is large, like it might chances to it may broke. Like it's
Yes, absolutely right. Because when you are going, large size and you are going for a thinner wafer, the first thing is the possibility of breaking, because the cutting can be uneven, and that is another problem. So you cannot cut uneven. You cannot have, somewhere 500 micrometer, somewhere 1000 micrometer thickness. So that uniformity is quite crucial. So maintaining over such a large surface area is another problem. So obviously, when you go for larger, larger size wafers, definitely the thickness would be higher. And later, this is very important point, because see, later we will understand that we don't require that much of thickness. I think in the previous slides I told you that we for solar cell, the optimum thickness as of now could be about 150 micrometer. So if I use a 12 inch wafer, good that I'm using a large size, but where will be the problem? This extra whatever 600 micrometer, it will be absolutely waste material, because this material will not be electronically active. This will not be taking part into any energy conversion whatsoever. But then it is sitting there, and obviously it is going to add the cost. So that's why that is the one major challenge, that we want bigger models. For bigger models, we definitely require bigger, larger diameter wafers. But at that same time, the problem is with the thickness. So this is what the engineering challenge or production challenge the wafer industry is facing. Anyway, then talking of electronically active, we have to define whether it is a p-type, n-type, or it is an intrinsic wafer. Intrinsic means there is no doping. Extrinsic means either p or n-type depending upon what is the dopant. Even you can specify what dopant you have. It may be boron, phosphorus, antimony, arsenic, because in certain application, although dopant is good, okay, in general, but for certain application, this dopant might be bad. Okay, so there could be a possibility that you are preferring a particular wafer, but normally boron or phosphorus dope are normally used. As usual, we have seen the orientation. 100, 111, or 110. 100 is the most famous ones, and it depends on, again, the process. What are you going to do with that wafer? What is your ultimate objective? So this orientation is going to decide so many things like chemical etching, your efficiencies, and probably the processing itself. If you are going to deposit something on that, it will be following this 100. So that is the thing. Then next thing is the resistivity. Have you studied measurement of resistance? Hello, have you studied measurement of resistance?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, in which subject?
Measurement and
Instrumentation.
instrumentation.
Measurement and instrumentation, correct. So do you remember the classification of resistances? Swatantra Kumar Gupta. Swatantra Kumar.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What are the different classifications?
So I not remember, sir.
You don't remember. Okay, fine, good. The next who we have?
Low, medium,
Sambit,
and high resistances.
Sambit Panda.
Yes, sir. We have low, medium, and high resistances.
Yes. Okay.
Low
High
for
resistances.
lesser
How do you measure high resistances?
Sir, Maker.
Maker, correct. Okay. Have you ever studied a method to measure the low resistance values?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
Sir, that breeze, double breeze.
Double bridge. Okay.
Kelvin's double breeze.
Kelvin's double bridge. Yes, right. Kelvin's double bridge. Okay. Any other method?
Sir, voltmeter, ammeter, ammeter, voltmeter.
So that is not for low resistance. Okay. Have you studied 4-probe measurement method? That is basically, roughly, it's the Kelvin's double bridge method. Okay. See, why you want 4 probes? Anyway, so as you have said, voltmeter, ammeter method. Let me ask you a question. For measuring resistance, there is practically think there is a 1 ammeter, 1 voltmeter, and there is a resistance, correct? Okay. So you will measure, you will see the voltmeter reading, you will see the ammeter reading, and you will find out the resistance. R is equal to V by I, correct? Okay. Now tell me which method is correct.
It depends upon the resistance, sir. If it is a low
Go on.
Sir, if it is a low resistance, we can use the voltmeter ammeter method, or if it is high resistance, we can use the ammeter voltmeter method. Sir, it depends upon the last element you are using. Sir, the ammeter losses are more if the current is more, so we are using for
Right.
it.
So it depends on the values, correct? So that's the whole point. So, but both methods will give you error, right? So that's why the 4-probe method is the combination of both, so that you can even eliminate the errors from both the methods, and ultimately you get that resistance. So now obviously this is a thin film, like a thin film only. So it has got some resistance, and that's why, as it has got a 1 dimension, it's a 2-dimension. It is given as ohm centimeter. Next thing is, as I have said, the surface finish. Okay, so it can be single side polished, it can be double side polished. So the point is, if you want to make device only on one side, why to polish the other one? But there are some processes where the device is made on both the sides. So in that case, you require a double side polished wafer. Okay, so these are the wafers. So you can see it's not circular, it has got some flat. Okay, and that helps us, and that will tell us more about the orientation and doping. In solar cells, even in electronic industry, we prefer 100 in 90% of the what you call it as wafers used are of 100 orientation. But as far as solar cell is concerned, later I will tell you that the texturing is required to produce pyramids. Okay, so that the surface reflectivity is reduced. So to make this pyramid, we require etching method, and 100 is good for that. We'll discuss it later in a very separate lecture. So this whatever the flats, what we call it as, they will denote what is the orientation of the wafer and what is the doping of the wafer. Okay, so here are certain standards, and this is called a semi-standard. So you can see I'm giving you some typical examples. Minor flat means the small flat, the length I'm talking about. So minor and major. So if it is 180 degree from the major flat, so this is 180 degree, it is N type 100. If the minor flat is, sorry, this is not the example. Yeah, this not even this one. Yeah, this one. No, I haven't given the example for this minor flat at 90 degree. Anyway, minor flat 45 degrees, then it will be this one, N type 111. If there are no minor flats, then it will be P type 111. So of course you can find out these standards, and you can find out that which type of wafer you have. Okay, so you can determine the orientation, you can determine the doping as well if I am giving you this if I'm showing you one wafer. Of course, there will be only one thing you cannot determine easily, that would be the resistivity. For that, you have to take that wafer to a lab, and you have to test its resistivity. Otherwise, whatever the most of the properties which I have shown you in this particular diameter, you can measure, thickness you can roughly estimate, conductivity, that is p-type, n-type, you can find out from the dopant, orientation you get from the flat, single side polish or double side, you can see it and you can check. So only thing would be resistivity, which you need to find out from the lab. So this is how because all wafers will look alike, so if you are mixing it, still you can segregate and you can find it. Now the point is, of course, for the devices, normally we use the large wafers. Okay, for solar cells, because it is related with the area, we want more photons to receive so that we can convert them. So obviously the larger size wafer would be good for us. But in labs especially, what happens is, we don't want to waste so much of large wafer. A small piece of 1 by 1 centimeter would be good for us, at least for the lab work. And even when people are reporting the efficiencies, normally they report at a lab scale, and at lab scale most of the time the device would be of only 1 by 1 centimeter. Why? Because it's a lab one, so we are reducing the cost. Okay, can you guess the cost of a one wafer, typical wafer? Silicon wafer?
5,000 rupees.
About 1200 to 1800 rupees for CZ. For float zone would be bit 10 to 20% costlier. Okay, it depends on what is the resistivity, what is the demand, and all that. So, but roughly take it as 1500 rupees. So you cannot just waste 1500 rupees. But what will be the surface area of a 2-inch wafer? About 20 centimeters square. So now you can imagine, if I break that, okay, at least I can make 10 to 12 pieces of 1 centimeter square each. So in lab, this becomes good for us. So we break the wafers, and it is called as cleaving of wafer. And how do we do that? It's a very thin one, right? So the point is, we can use our knowledge of the orientation over here. So you can see here, this is a wafer, 2-inch typical wafer. You press firmly on the flat edge that indicates the orientation, maybe 110. Use a diamond scribe or a diamond cutter. So it is a pen at the end of which, at the tip of which there will be a small diamond. And then you hold the wafer with the tweezer on the other end. So you can see tweezer over here and diamond over here. That's why you can see a small white dot, because that is of the diamond. And then you press it. So you can see here, it is cutting absolutely, in a straight line, and you can further go on and you can make the four absolutely equal sized this thing. So this is called as the cleaving. So what property of the wafer we are using? Yes, what property of the wafer we are using here? Why it is cutting in a straight line? I will ask you this question in a different manner. Have you ever seen a car accident? Have you visited a car accident site?
Yes, sir.
Normally the glasses will be shattered. Have you observed the shape of the glass?
Yes, sir. But it will be intact.
No. Of course,
Like,
it is
there were so
normally
much
encapsulated.
cracks
I'm
over
talking
there.
about extreme. Yeah. It will break, right?
Crystalline property of the wafer.
Yes, crystalline property, or in case of glass, you will see it as diamond shape. Okay, so glass will break only if on the weaker side. And I think I told you last time that in the hardware store where the glass, large glasses are, glass sheets are sold, they will be always vertical. Okay, they will never keep it horizontal. Why? Because if there is a slightest force on this side, it is going to break. But if it is on this side, it is not going to break. Okay, so that's why glasses are, even they are transported vertically, they are never transported horizontally. However, if these are the metal sheets, like क्या बोलते हैं उसको, metal sheets you put on the roof, okay, they will be always transfer horizontally. Why? Because they are metal, they can sustain any force on the horizontal. Okay, so the orientation, that is what, yeah, you can see the GIF over here when you are cutting it. Okay, see, this is the single side. You can see, by the way, you can see this is not a polished one, the other side one is the polished one. So you can see the the glossiness. This is rough, this is glossy. So this is a single side polished wafer. So you can see, yeah, he's keeping other side and then he's pressing it, holding the wafer, and you get a nice cut. Yeah, done. And in the way, have you seen how the glass is cut? So see, there will be sheet of, let us say 10 feet or something, but you want a 5 feet sheet only. Do you know how it is cut in the hardware store? Have you ever purchased a glass sheet? See, this is the whole point. You will learn engineering out of this, institute. You will learn it more in the market, more in the industry, in the where the materials are handled. Okay, how the glass is cut? They will put a mark with a diamond cutter. Okay, and after that, he will simply tap on one of the part which is normally what you say small, and then you will see that glass will cut as exactly as where you have marked the diamond diamond cut. Okay, anyway, so I hope you got the point that we are doing it, we are using the property of this orientation of the wafer. So basically we are finding out what is the weaker link over here, what is the weaker direction, and if we hammer it along that, if we put some pressure along that, the wafer is going to cut itself into several halves. Okay, so I think I will stop over here. There is some part which is still remaining from this lecture, maybe some 10-15 slides where we will be talking about the recycling and other things. Okay, so business model. Okay, again we'll be talking about how to improve the efficiency of the system, and efficiency is largely improved because of the recycling. Okay, but anyway, find out the answer to my question. I hope it would be interesting. Try to think on that. So we will stop here and we will meet in the next lecture, maybe on next Wednesday. Okay. Any questions? Any queries before we stop? No queries? Okay. Thank you very much. Have a good time.
Sir, about that plane.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody's asking. Yeah, please.
So the plane, if it is going vertically only, then it will be
Yes,
visible,
absolutely.
or
Yeah, because
normal?
they don't think, how come? Because see, once you reach a height and once that height is constant, there is no change in height, right? See, sunrise is all about that height going up, okay, or down. So position vertically to the surface. So it can happen. So it requires, you have to be very lucky to see this. You should be going exactly when the sun is at the horizon, and you should be going up. Then only this is possible. Otherwise, it's not possible. Okay, so you should be very, very lucky to see this. But that's why you can do a thought experiment.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Bye.